Hello, freelancing community, and welcome to yet another freelance meetup in collaboration with market makers and Helvetas. Today we have a slightly different event compared to what we usually hosted so far. In today's session, which is going to be purely online, we're going to talk with members, representatives of two freelancing agencies that are going to give us a little bit of an insight into how the freelancing world looks like from their perspective in terms of both freelancers and clients. We're going to hear from Goran and Yuri from 9 a.m. Code Control and Povio Labs. One agency is based in Berlin. Second one is based in Slovenia. Both of them have a very good insight into the current state of the market, and you have an opportunity to basically get information from the first hand. My name is Nermin. I'm the founder and CEO of Tersaus, currently the largest co-working space in Bosnia. And you could say I was a long-lasting freelancer. I've been working as a freelancer for more than 8 years, coincidentally as a member of Code Control. So I'm also going to be a small moderator to this discussion and maybe help with some questions that I can now ask both from a perspective of freelancer or maybe somebody who's currently employing people. So I'm going to loop both Yuri and Goran into the mix. Hi, Goran.
Hey, guys.
And Yuri. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Maybe Yuri, let's start with you. Can you maybe introduce yourself in like 2-3 sentences and what's your role at Code Control in 9 a.m.?
Yeah, just before we started, I told that I prepared like 28 pages of presentation, and now I understand that it will be just a talk. So basically, hey, my name is Yuri. I'm a community builder and Code Control and 9 a.m. And it's kind of two companies, and Code Control is a talent agency based in Berlin, but we work through all over the Europe, and we connect senior tech experts with great projects. We have a lot of amazing projects such as Volvo, BMW, Siemens, etc. So we are doing our best to bring what we can. And also because of we had this journey already for more than 7 years, even though I'm working less than 7 years, definitely in this company. So during this journey, we understood some main problems of freelancers which they have on a day-to-day basis. And that's why we created 9am.works platform. Basically, it's 9am operational system for freelancers. And you can check it out at 9am.works.
Cool, thanks. Goran, can you maybe introduce Povio to some of the viewers who maybe are not aware of Povio, even though Povio has a more regional presence compared to, for example, Code Control, even though I know Code Control has like at least 7 or 8 developers from Tersaus as part of the platform.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So hi again, guys. So my name is Goran. I'm head of freelance community and matching department here at Povio. So with my team, actually, we are taking care of two things. So finding the right, let's say, projects for professionals who are part of our platform, and of course, everything connected with freelancers as well. So Povio started, I don't know, 8-9 years ago already with an app. Actually, that's how we also got our name. Povio stands for Point of View, POV.io. Got in Y Combinator, one of the, let's say, most prestigious accelerators in the world, and did a little bit of switch there, went more into agency models, started developing firstly for some of our schoolmates from there. From then on, we developed, I don't know, for Serena Williams. We are still currently working on a couple of projects for Alexis Ohanian, founder of Reddit. We have been working for Volkswagen, and so on and so on. And yeah, it's a mixture mostly of startups, especially from the Silicon Valley, from the US, and also from other countries as well. So yeah, we actually have like two options for collaboration. Also in Sarajevo, we have a couple of teams who are a little bit more close to us. We call it a core team. So they are working mostly on our projects, and we have a freelance community, freelancers who are helping out where we need it. So that's pretty much it. And yeah, we have, like I said, different kind of collaboration, trying to find the best solutions for everyone. Depends on the wishes and what people would like to have. So that's it. in short.
Thanks. Just a small note for all of the viewers, in case you have any questions that you want to ask, you feel free to leave them in the chat of your designated platform, wherever you're looking at, because we're streaming on multiple platforms. Yuri, because you prepared the presentation in case you want to share it with us, we really don't mind seeing that. So maybe we can start with that.
You know, I don't really know, because I was thinking like, okay, I'll have 45 minutes talks and something like that. So I'm not sure that you want to listen to only me for 45 minutes.
Okay, because I kind of know what you prepared in the presentation. Let me rephrase that to questions, and then we can have a discussion through the presentation.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So my first question, maybe for both of you guys, and maybe Yuri, we can start with you. So taking into account that the audience that is listening to this talk is mostly people considering going into freelancing in terms of like starting their career professionally as freelancers, or people who are maybe employed currently full-time in a company and are considering freelancing as kind of a next step in their career. Maybe just to see, because both, let's say, Code Control and 9 AM and Povio are very professionally oriented platforms. Like you have a selection process, you have a vetting process. It's not like Upwork where you just create an account and then you can bid to a project. Can you maybe, in few sentences, both of you describe what's the onboarding process that you guys do? What kind of requirements do you have? How skillful do you have to be in order to get into that platform? What's the average level of knowledge, for example, in terms of developers? I assume mostly developers, but maybe some designers or people to do marketing. So how advanced should people be when they decide to apply to both of your platforms? Maybe let's start with you, Yuri.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. And currently, like before we had just Code Control, it was like closed community. So to join this community, you have to be a senior, mainly it's developers, but also product managers, product owners, designers, and to have at least 5 years of experience. And how our process looked like. So you apply on the website, you go to codecontrol.io/community, then you send an application and you are getting into our pipeline. So what usually goes next, you receive some home take challenge. If it's developers, it's some codility test. If it's product managers, we have some additional tasks that we send people and see how they work on it. You can do it wherever you want. Like you can have all time of the world. Like you can do it in a year, whatever, doesn't matter. But the main idea is that after you pass this challenge, like we need to understand your basics, even though like you may say that you have like 6 years of experience, but we need to understand that it's exactly how it is. And after passing this challenge, usually we have a small call. It's like 30, 45 minutes, something like that, just a small talk with me as a community builder. And we talk about like, human stuff. Definitely, we talk a little about projects you've done, like what is your I love this question. What is your favorite? What is your dream project? And I'm trying to understand if this person is a good fit for the community, for other people to connect with them, but also to present clients. Because if person cannot talk, if person cannot explain what they are working on, like we can't present this person to a client. So we definitely need to understand that this person like smiling sometimes, that having a sense of humor for sure, in addition to their great technical skills. So it's like very in general, but currently we closed Code Control community, access to Code Control community, because frankly speaking, we have like a lot of senior community members who have a lot of experienced community members, and with current downturns in economics and new projects, etc., we are working on bringing projects to our existing community members instead of increasing competition within the community. So that's why we stopped for some period of time receiving new applications for Code Control. However, you can always like visit 9am.works, sign in for the platform. First of all, you can use it for your freelancing journey. And secondly, you'll be invited to an open 9am community where like every kind of freelancer can be. And even if you are just starting your freelancing journey, you can join and you can communicate, you can talk to other people, and you can learn from each other and connect, and we will support you in this journey. So that's how it worked for us.
Thanks. Goran, from your perspective, can you share some more information?
Yeah, it's, let's say, we have some similarities for sure. So on our page, povio.com, you can always apply. We also have some referral system where already community members can refer other members and so on and so forth. And how the whole process usually look like, we firstly have like a, let's call it a cultural call with one of my colleagues. This is more like to understand who the person is, what is their, let's say, goals, wishes, what they would like also to achieve as a freelancer or as a core team member. It's not important at that point. And of course, also to present Povio, to see if these two, let's say, words can connect and we can work successfully together. If both sides agree to continue, usually we send an assignment that you can take home, and of course do it when you have time. It's let's say, on professional to decide how long it will take him. Of course, it's much better to do it, I don't know, in a couple of weeks or something, not in a year. But we also received, I don't know, assignments after a year or two when people actually had time. So it's okay with us. Maybe the assignment is outdated at that point, but after that, you would usually have, if all is good with the assignment. So this is like a second actually checkpoint, if all is good. Tech interview with one of our tech leads, where you will go through the assignment, but the interview is not so much focused only on the assignment, also some general questions about the stack that you're working in and how you do it, and of course to present how we like to do it, because we also have some tech guidelines. Of course, I'm not saying we know the best, but we at least have something what we like to stick with. And if all is well, then for a freelancer, you are added to our platform. In that case, usually I would also jump on a call with you or one of my colleagues. She's currently on a maternity leave, so when she's back, she will take over these calls again. And, just to get the feeling. Why? Because me or her are then usually more in contact with all the freelancers, and at least for me, it's much easier when you have like a face-to-face discussion, when you get to know a little bit person. It's more like to be there for them, to support them, to answer some of the questions that might pop up, because at the beginning of the process, you might have totally different questions than at the end of the process. And based on all the information that are provided during the process and all that on that call, we see if we can find a match soon or not to start collaborating together. So currently, as Yuri also mentioned, the economy is as it is, but we are still accepting new candidates that want to apply. So we are open. Of course, we can never guarantee that they will find a gig with us right away. But if you want to join, of course, you can go through the process. If you successfully pass it, you are on our platform, and we will try to find something. Sometimes it takes longer, depends also on the stack and everything else. But yeah, sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it's much faster. Currently, things are looking better, at least for us, than it was at the beginning of the year. But I'm still, I don't know. I'm always a little bit skeptical, to be honest. I don't want to jump into something too quick. But yeah, things are turning into a better, and I hope we'll get there sooner than later.
Yeah, I think everybody who's in the IT sector had at least one mental breakdown in the last 3 months, taking into account all of the turbulences in the economy and everything, the Silicon Valley Bank and all the layoffs. I want to ask maybe just one small questions to both of you before I forget. It's interesting that you both mentioned that apart from the actual technical background of the person who is applying to the agency, cultural fit is also very important. What do you consider as a key component when you say cultural fit? We know that a lot of companies, for example, when they're hiring somebody, they like to say, okay, we have like this culture in the company that you need to fit in and blah, 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 we're family. But with freelancing, it's a bit different because you're still you have your own thing. You're working on your own gigs, but you're part of this agency that's kind of representing you somewhere else. So it's a bit different than an actual company. So maybe one key point, what you consider like the most important? Is it like how person is communicating? Is it a smile? How anxious they are? You know, what are you looking for? I don't know. Yuri, you can go first maybe.
Okay, yeah, it's a very good question, because for me it's kind of like, you know, I just feel people. I'm working in the community world for 8 years so far, and I can easily talk if this person, I can easily tell you if it's a good person or not. And it's not about like, I told about smile, but yeah, it's not just only, you can be super serious, you can never smile, but you can still be an amazing person. And it's more about how person presents themselves and how they talk, like how confident they are, how they react on some questions. Like, for example, if I'm asking, what is your dream job? You know, they might be excited out of this. It means that they are like really want to work on a project, and also they understand that they're freelancers, which also means that they won't talk only, you know, to one manager and like to nobody else, but they have to have communications with agency, with company, with team. And you know, they have to be at least have this, I would say, rather average, at least average communication skills. And definitely to be able to present themselves in English if they're looking for international jobs. Because, you know, you can be a great developer, but if you can't talk, people just, they won't understand that you're a great developer. It would be hard for them to understand. So even if you like have rather okay English, I suppose I propose you to maybe learn it a little, or maybe just go out there and go to some speaking clubs and maybe to improve it, or just go to interviews, you know, and recruiters will tell you if you have any problems and any challenges. Because if somebody asks for a feedback, I'm super happy to give a feedback, because I really believe that giving a good feedback, I'm not saying like, yeah, you suck. No, not like that. But giving a good feedback is always good, because people can improve themselves. And, you know, maybe somebody will not be a good fit like right now, but in 3 months and they will be amazing fit. You never know. So I can talk on this theme forever. So Goran, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think communication is one of the key skill set. So either English, either confidence, whatever we take into this, let's say, basket. But communication all over, it's like really, really important. And maybe to add, at least for me, from my side, what I see, it's really important when you have a freelancer on the project. Usually it is like that you work directly with a client. So what's important to me maybe is that they have this, how to call it, ownership of what they're doing. So, you know, to have this kind of trust, it's hard to, you know, to say on the cultural call or whatever we call this, that, yeah, he has the ownership or not. But this is more maybe the first part is just a process to get to the platform, but then working on a project, you really see what kind of person you're dealing with. And if they don't have this kind of ownership, that, I don't know, if they say they will do something, they really do, or communicate, they won't be able, or if they don't, let's say, stick with what was agreed, usually it brings a lot of issues on the project. So you have to really have like a good understanding of yourself and know what you are capable of, and if you're not, to communicate it rightly at the right time and stuff like that. So this is kind of important for me, or let's say for our projects as well.
I find that
I can see that Selim is asking a question. What if we pronounce GIF with a J? Like, maybe people can't understand you at some point, but in general, if you like know how to keep this conversation, it's not a problem. No worries.
I find it a bit interesting that the communication in terms of freelancing is very important when it comes to like the whole package of a freelancer. But usually developers, at least from my perspective, how it seems, focus very little on the actual communication skills. There's kind of like this mentality where I'm a big developer. I'm gonna code as much as I can, but I'm not gonna focus on like talking to people or anything related to any soft skill whatsoever. Which maybe is okay if you're working for like a large company where you have like some middle layer manager who's going to do all the talk for you. But if you want to kind of step out on your own, it's actually quite important.
Yeah, you have to remember that you are an entrepreneur. Yeah. And you are doing everything for you. Nobody will do it for you. And if you can't present yourself, how would you find projects? Even though we are like agencies, we are platforms that helping you, but we can't help you if you are not helping yourself. So yeah,
it requires a certain change in mentality, which I think everybody has to go through when they either. That's why I think it's maybe a bit better if you're moving from a company to a freelancing career rather than jumping into a freelancing career immediately. Because even through a company, if you have some boring things to do, you're still gonna learn how to communicate, how to talk with clients. Hopefully stuff like that. One big benefit of freelancing compared to working in maybe like a traditional company is that you get to choose your own projects, or you get to pick who you work with. And usually people think that freelancing career is going to bring you some more interesting projects or some more challenging projects, or you're going to get exposure in working with some more interesting clients, so to say. So maybe in short, give us some insight into what kind of projects Code Control, 9am, and Povio are kind of onboarding on their platforms. What are you looking for when you're looking for a project, and what could a freelancer expect if they go through the vetting process, they are in the community, and an offer comes in? So what type of projects would they be working on?
Okay, I can go first now. So yeah, regarding the projects, like I mentioned, we are still mostly focusing on startups. So most of our projects are pre-release phase, which means they are still working on some MVP. They still needs to go into production and stuff like that. But of course, for the stability of the company and everything else, you still need some little bit more long-term, stable projects that are on the market for a while. Because otherwise it's really hard to just go with MVPs, because otherwise you don't know what will happen in 3 months, for example. So things in freelance world, things can change quite quickly. Of course, I don't think there's any agency that is not aiming to get the best possible projects, but to be honest, we also had some bad, to say like this, projects. At the end of the day, we also have to cancel a few of the projects, few of the clients, because it just didn't work out. Your client didn't understand what we want, or didn't understand what the freelancer who was working on the project, how they could help. They were not utilizing it. It's not only that they don't understand, they are not utilizing maybe the person in the right way. And of course, the person at the end become dissatisfied. And we are trying to gather all this feedback while working on the project. Before we start somewhere, it's really hard to determine this. There are some indicators that could give you a little bit more, let's say, feeling about it. But it's really hard before you actually start working on it. So it's like an ongoing process where you see what is needed on a project. And if that's a good fit, if not, we try to change it. If it's not possible, we try to drop it, to be honest. But yeah, in our case, let's say mostly for some startups, this is our main goal, what they would actually be working on. And of course, we try to find some interesting clients as much as possible. So
yeah, and I would add that definitely we are also looking out for great clients. We also work with startups, and also we work with established companies. And the idea behind, like, I cannot dive into the woods of how it works because it's question to our sales department, but I can ensure that they are doing something like I am doing from the freelancer side. So they are also checking projects, they have conversations with them, interview them to ensure that this project is for real, that it works. They have good attitude. They are working, like they have a, yeah. I had once a feedback that project started with one requirement and finished with another requirement. Sometimes it happens. And as Goran told, we also try to gather this feedback to understand whether we need to continue working with such companies. Because in our case, like, let's say our like freelancers is our power. So we should care about people. And if we are talking about like having some client just to make money, or not having this client but have good relationships with freelancers, definitely will choose relationships, because it's a long term. It's not like today we're working and goodbye, see you never. Totally not in that way.
Yeah.
So
I also support this. So we are the same. I mean, we are at least trying people first, of course. Of course, always when there's an issue, you try to figure out what it is and if it could be solved. So it's not always, oh, there's an issue, someone raise a hand, and you just drop everything and try to find something else, because this would be really hard to succeed, to be honest. But yeah, we are trying to adapt to also what are the wishes, what are the goals of professionals. But to be honest, also freelancers, it's an interesting journey, to say it like this. And sometimes you need to be a little bit more adaptable. So because clients are different, every client is different. And even though if you have someone really good right now, next client can be something totally different to the previous one. And you need to adapt fast to what they are looking for if you want to be to be successful on the market, to be honest. Because there is a lot of freelancers on the market, not just agency, but freelancers as well. And it's a battle at the end of the day as well, even though there is a, let's say, big demand for good professionals. I don't think usually they don't need a lot of time to find something, but still it's a big battle.
Yeah, as Goran mentioned, it's very important to be a facilitator, to hear not one side but two sides, because also there were cases when some project is a bad fit for a freelancer, but is an amazing fit for another freelancer. It's also people fit. So you have to, kind of like be always like jungling, or what this word is, like, you need to understand like who to connect with who.
Thank you, Alma, for the question. We'll get back to it in a second. One more thing that I wanted to ask. So everybody who's ever done anything in terms of sales in IT knows how difficult it is to kind of negotiate a good deal from both sides. Like if you're hiring developers or if you're outsourcing developers, if you're a developer trying to sell your services, it's just a very big mess of so the entire ecosystem is kind of one big pile of mud. Because you guys represent agencies, or like when agencies are kind of out there on the market, it adds one more layer of complexity. So you're kind of a company, but you don't have employees. You have like these other independent freelancers. How do you approach clients? And then how do you compete with, like, for example, a company that has 100 people on board? So what's your why should a company hire an agency with freelancers compared to, for example, a traditional company that is outsourced? Because I know there's a lot of kind of bad rep, so to say, when it comes to hiring agencies, because people have kind of this weird connotation that agency is going to scam them, which in most cases isn't really true, because have access to a better talent pool compared to a traditional company, because freelancing is kind of an upscale from working in a traditional company, but the perception is not really like that. So I'm just curious, like, do you have any insight from the client? What triggers them to kind of go into hiring you guys compared to like a traditional IT company?
And compare with Code Control, like the idea that they're not hiring a company, they hiring freelancers. So basically we help them find each other. And at the end of the day, they're working with a freelancer, and we kind of an intermediary person. So we handle all communication, we handle all negotiations. Definitely a freelancer have to show up on an interview. And sometimes, usually it's enough to have our technical interview. But sometimes if it's a like big, huge project, international companies, they require their own technical assessment. So it's all about, once again, connecting people to projects. So I just can't tell what is like difference between hiring a company and a person, because at the end of the day, they're hiring people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I fully support what you already said. Maybe to add, it's like with two things. So first is usually, at least that's the feedback, we can provide someone much faster and we are much more adaptable what they actually need, because we are trying to cover, let's say, a larger spectrum of technologies, of people, of everything else. So we can support them with the whole team or just one person or whatever is needed. So this is one thing. And the second thing is, that we also have, let's say, our own vetting process that we discussed at the beginning of this conversation in place. So we try to provide them with professionals that we think they're good. Of course, not everyone pass their, let's say, their clients vetting or something like that. But still, I think a lot of times client, if we come to the interview, decides to move forward with our candidates because they have been pre-vetted. They usually, people who are on platform are good professionals and they know how to communicate. They know they have their own skills and so on and so forth. Of course, sometimes client decides for someone else. It's never possible. So, but if it's more like let's call it like a team implementation where the client needs additional help, it's much easier to land a gig. Much harder it is to get the whole project from, let's say, from scratch, where everything is on our side. So that the client trusts us with everything. So from project manager to QA engineers to development to design to everything included. So it's much harder to land this gig, of course, because client needs to have much more trust. If they're just one or two developers, it's much easier. And this, let's say, that we are so adaptive and fast with resources, it's something that gives them some security.
And also talking about our company side, why we're not always like providing jobs to everyone. You have to remember that freelancers are also on the search, and there are a lot of other agencies. And I even saw such cases when one freelancer go to different agencies and like negotiate different rates. So for example, it's not a secret that we have a fee on top. So how it works, freelancers tell their hourly rate, we add our fees like up to 20%, and then we negotiate this rate with the client. But sometimes some companies want to have clients, so they can go with 5%. They don't care. So their idea is just to deliver the client. To match client with freelancer. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is how it is. And the funniest thing that if the company, a client have these different proposals from different agencies, sometimes they can not choose anyone. And the person is, if the person were working with one agency, for example, at the moment, they would have received this job. But because of they decided to like find better ways, let's say, they can end up with nothing.
This is actually a very good segue into my next question, which is related to hourly rates. As we all know, a lot of people move into freelancing career due to the fact that they can earn more money. From your perspective, how do you, the talk about money is always kind of, it doesn't really floats everybody's boat, so to say. So it can be kind of uncomfortable. People don't know how to price themselves. Somebody overprices their services and stuff like that. Do you have any kind of policy in terms of like rules in the agency? What's the hourly rate that the company doesn't go below, so not to drop kind of market rates, or doesn't go above a certain range? Or if a person thinks he's overrated himself or underrated, how do you communicate it? And how do people react when you say an agency has a fee? Some people see it as a normal thing. Some people think it's a scam. So all of these things kind of are brought into a factor when a freelancer is starting his career. So maybe some point of view from your end. Whoever wants to go first.
Goran, would you like to start?
No worries.
I can always start.
No worries. I mean, I can also start. I'm just waiting to see who will unmute himself first. So, all right. Regarding the hourly rates, it's let's say the discussion that it's almost always the hardest, because you have to find the right hourly rate. To be honest, you want to give a freelancer as much as possible, because why not at the end of the day? So it's they are bringing value. They are working with a client, and like Yuri mentioned, there is some fee on top of it. So if someone is working, more people that are working, better it is for you. But not just for the fee. So new clients, can bring new, like I mentioned earlier, referrals that brings new, let's say, opportunities and so on and so forth. On the other hand, freelancers, if they're happy, of course, they can bring new people in and stuff like that. So regarding the hourly rates, I would always go, of course, first asking someone how much they would like to have. With that rate, I usually would go to the sales team to present it to the client if they haven't agreed earlier. If they have agreed earlier, I would just tell the freelancer how much they could expect. But I have, let's say, a feeling already, most of the freelancers, where they are floating around which rate. And if this is really below their rate or something like that, I don't even try to offer them this. Or if I know they're searching for, let's say, a gig for a while now, I can still let them know and let them decide. So it's not always like straightforward. It also depends, of course, what would their role be on the project and stuff like that. So in what kind of situation they will be pushed, if there are some extra, let's say, conditions that the client would like to have, like some overlap or working in the evening or something like that, because like I mentioned, we have a lot of clients from the US as well. But yeah, we try not to go too low, that's for sure. Freelancers usually are paid better than if you're, let's say, employed. It's logical. You don't have sick leaves, you don't have vacations, at least with us. As long as you work, you are getting paid. Project can stop at any time, and then you don't have security, and so on and so forth. So at least I try to compensate this. But to be honest, I mean, there are always someone who's cheaper, and there's always someone who is, let's say, more expensive. So we are somewhere in the middle regarding the rates. I can tell we can try to offer as much as possible, but yeah, not sure if you wanted to hear numbers right now or what. In which direction?
I'm sure it's between $5 and $95, right?
Something like that,
yeah. No, I think most of the
666.
Yeah, I think most of the freelancers or people who are going freelancing career have a pretty good understanding of what the rates are. Also, probably most of the people are aware that usually US clients, I guess, pay a lot more than, for example, European clients. That a short-term project is going to cost more than a long-term project. Like with anything, if you're buying in a bulk, you're going to get a discount. So if you have a commitment from a client for a full year, you're naturally going to drop your hourly rate by 10-15%. Usually,
just to mention, at least from my, let's say, feeling, US clients do maybe pay more, but not much more like they used to maybe in the past. So I don't know if this is also connected to dollar or something, but it's not such a big difference anymore. So we have clients from Europe, we have clients from the US, and client rates are not so different in this case.
That's interesting.
Of course, we have clients from Germany and Scandinavian countries, and maybe that's also the reason. So, but yeah.
So also, I would add that before preparing to this conversation, I reach out to our sales team and ask them this question, like, what is the pay range and how it works? And yeah, it's definitely super hard to have, for example, person in Germany and person, for example, I don't know, in Poland, and they are asking the same amount of money, but the level of living in Germany is much higher than the level of living in Poland. And it's always, this like, I even know that in the US, they are paying different rates depending on what state you are in. So very similar things in Europe. So what our sales team answered me, so it's all comes to play if the talent based in Germany or outside the Germany, and also dependent on education, experience, and once again, yeah, location, as I told. So basically rates are like around 40 euros up to 120 euros. And it's always about negotiations and how to understand. We even had a good article on 9am.works blog on how to calculate your hourly rate as a freelancer. And sometimes you don't need 120 euros, Maybe you need a good project for 70 euros. But you heard that somebody had the same project for 120, and you just go with this rate, even having no ground behind. But if you know what it works for you. Like if you are a freelancer, you pay your own insurance, you pay your own taxes, you pay all this administration stuff, and you definitely have to include all the things into your hourly rate. But if you know your hourly rate and you can stand with it, like you will benefit a lot. Because why sometimes agencies going down with the price? Because some freelancers just saying different rates. Just, like, how much would you like to get? $200. Why? I don't know. Just, I like this number. But if you can tell that here is my rate, that is why, and I'm saying like this is my minimum rate, you also have to negotiate. So yeah, but as an agency, from the agency side, we always care about freelancers. And it also depends on the budgets, client's budgets. So how it usually works, we go to freelancer, ask the hourly rate, and then we also talk with the client about their budget, and we matching them. So if client's budget is lower than freelancer's hourly rate, we're going to somebody else. So we're not like, okay, your hourly rate 100 euros, but we'll propose you 52. What do you think? No, it's not working that way. So we're trying to match freelancers with clients and the budgets they have. And you know what? We could really go like with 50% fee or something like that, but we have a fixed fee. So we are not going up. Like we are not trying to, get more money. And that's what really helps to be fair. Because easily we could work, I don't know, with some people from Africa or from Asia and maybe even have lower rates. But no, it's not fair. We're not doing that.
Yeah, we are also aiming to get as much projects as possible, to be honest, to close as much project as possible. It's not about that fee. But I just wanted to add maybe one more thing that it's, let's say, more actual in the last couple of months. It also depends on the market trends. So currently there are a lot of people on the market and looking for new gigs. So of course, also clients are aware of that. So it's not, it's always like a two-way communication, and clients usually in this case try to go a little bit lower with the rates in the situations like this, because of course they also want to save a little bit and stuff like that. But I don't know, a year ago or something like that, it was much easier also to, with the existing clients, to increase the rates with the existing clients, because this is also one of our goals. If there is a normal situation, is that we at least try once per year or something like that, increase the rate for the freelancer as well. There's inflation, there's everything happening around, and we are trying to increase that. We are trying to adapt to that, but it really depends what is happening on the market at that point. So currently it's much harder. 1 year ago, it was much easier to do that.
So rates about 50, 70, 120 euros, those are all senior rates. However, Alma has a question about how to find clients as a new freelancer. I'm not sure, Alma, if you're already working somewhere or are you just starting to work on your career? So maybe some general advice on that. And the second part of the question is how to get even better at the communication part. So how to, you already mentioned something like go to interviews and maybe practice, or maybe some other tips on how to improve your communication skills.
Yeah, like you can just Google how to improve your communication skills, because there are so many articles and videos on that. But once again, it's all up to the practice. So you can listen to every podcast, you can read every book on communication, but unless you are trying to do it, if you are not talking to people, you won't become good at it overnight. So it's like constant communication, go to some freelancers meetups, go to some events, go to some conferences, talk to people, and like overcome your shyness, overcome your introversy. Like just do it. And it would be hard at the beginning, but if you want to be a freelancer, you definitely have to make this skill work for you. So at the end of the day, you'll have fun talking to people. Okay, maybe you'll not have fun, but at least you'll be okay at talking to people, and you'll see increase in your clients base and your rates base. So, at the end of the world, why are people buying iPhones? because they are communicating better than some other brands. So yeah, just think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I support that. So practice. That's the only advice that I can actually give in short. It's like practice, practice, practice. Talk with people, go on some events, stuff like that, like you already mentioned. And regarding Alma's questions, how to find a new client, you can join different platforms like we are discussing today. This is, of course, one possibility. Now, it really depends how experienced you are. If you are at the beginning of your career, my suggestion is always try to find a team first, work inside the team, gain some experience, and it's much easier then because you also get to know yourself a little bit better, get more comfortable to find gig as a freelancer, either through platforms or either by yourself. It's much easier nowadays to find also gigs by yourself. But if you're an experienced developer, what I would do, of course, I mean, I'm almost certain that all the experienced developers also had some offers coming in to their LinkedIn profiles, wherever they find them. Not sure because I haven't been in recruiting much, but this is one way. Other is always maybe first step is to go through some agency. Why? To get the feel about it. And because agency will give you this kind of support behind it, and it's much easier to jump into the new freelance world. And later on, you can decide if this works for you. You stay with some agency, 2, 3. My suggestion is always that you try to have, let's say, more options, not just to focus on one. Because if you're focusing on one, you're risking a little bit too much. But yeah, go through some agencies, try to see if you can find some gigs through them. And later on, you can decide if you would like to go finding gigs alone. We have a couple of freelancers who work through us, later on decided to go on a freelance by themselves, or they even started building their own companies and so on and so forth. So it really depends where in your career you currently are regarding that.
And also I would add that sometimes you can go to some hackathons just to show your skills if you have any of them. But for sure, it's for I don't know, maybe it's also for senior freelancers, but I don't know if they care about hackathons. Sometimes yes, sometimes it depends. But also, if you have some time, you can just volunteer and work with some organizations like for the future. Because when I was doing Google Ads, I found some opportunity from the US, and I was like, and they were like, we are looking for a Google rockstar, Google Ads rockstar. And I was like, I'm not a rockstar yet, but why not? Let's try. And finally, this kind of volunteering thing turned out into a good gig, and I was rather good, received a good payment for that, because I'm from Ukraine, and like having money in dollars, it's rather good. And also, I would add about LinkedIn thing. Once again, in Ukraine, most people don't care about LinkedIn, but in the US, people are obsessed with this. So work on your LinkedIn account, Google on how to make it better, how to add all these tricks, all these keywords, add like the most experience you have. If you have finished some courses, add it there, interact with people, follow some thought leaders, if they're sharing something, reply in the comments. And, by doing that, even if you are not posting, you are being active there. It's also kind of building your brand. And it also helps recruiters to find you there. And they're really good in searching on LinkedIn. So I would suppose that you pay attention on this.
We have a lot of questions in the chat. All right. I didn't expect this. Usually this doesn't happen. I'm not prepared for this. I maybe add just to this question that Alma mentioned, maybe from my perspective, I would agree with what you guys both mentioned. Definitely working in a team or a company before freelancing helps a lot. It builds up your confidence. It helps you ease the pressure on whatever you're working on, especially if you have like a tight deadline. Working in a team makes all the difference. It will also help you with your communication as well. So you will learn how to communicate at least with like few people around you, which is then gonna improve your communication when it comes to the client. And it's just more fun at the beginning. So as a new freelancer, maybe not focus so much on the actual income, but rather than building this entire support system around your freelancing gig, and later in your career, better financial incentive is going to come. All right, let's see some questions. I actually had some more questions on my own. One, I think, which is particularly interesting is when people say freelancing, it's kind of, we intuitively think about developers, but realistically, even especially after COVID, that term became much broader. So I'm curious to know, in terms of Code Control, 9am, and Povio, what other professions do you guys kind of onboard to your freelancing platforms? Are they all closely related to IT in terms of like support services like project management, design, QA, or maybe some additional services like marketing, consulting in terms of business and stuff like that? Whoever unmutes first.
Yeah. Let me start because it's a little easier for me to answer. For Code Control, it's more tech people, so it's developers, project managers, product owners. It was just a focus from the beginning, like on this niche. But also with 9am, we're spreading our, like, we're open for every freelancer. But since we have this experience in tech, definitely we're starting with tech. And we'll expand the way we grow up. So basically more of this, and anyone can join, basically any freelancer can join. I just can't promise that you will find a project there yet. Later, sure. For now, not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite similar for us. We are actually IT agency, so we are mostly focusing on IT. So developers, QA engineers, automation QA, design, stuff like that. From other, let's say, areas, not so much. Of course, we had like a situation 1, 2, 3 where some other expert was needed, and we tried to find, of course, add them to our freelance platform and work with them. But this was more like per request, when the client comes and say, we are working with the client, and client asks if we can help them with something else. And we try to see if we can find or maybe connect them with some other agency who is specialized in that to help out. But other than that, mostly on IT.
All right, randomly picking from the list of questions. The first one by a random username. I guess this is a short for something, never mind. How often clients are comfortable with part-time engagements? Maybe just in short, I guess it comes down to the request that you guys are getting. It also maybe depends on the current state of the economy, but what's more common, full-time or part-time gigs?
For us, mostly full-time, to be honest. There are a lot more requests for full-time because clients would also like to have someone focus on their project, whatever. Part-time is mostly used when someone needs additional help, or it's the project goes into maintenance or something like that. In these cases, of course, we also have like part-time freelancers working on our projects. But then again, with part-time, it's like at least, I don't know, sometimes it's 10 hours is enough, but let's say up to 20 hours because their client would like to see some progress. Rarely. We have projects, of course, where, I don't know, freelancers do 5 hours per month, but this is really rarely. It's mostly like then if you say that you will freelance part-time, you still need to engage and put some time into it. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, totally. Same here. So most full-time, and projects can vary from like 1 month term to 1 year term. But in general, clients want you to be fully there.
I can actually give a short insight from my perspective. First project on Code Control that I got was a project that was supposed to be 3 months, and it ended up being almost 5 years. So
yeah, it's also people fit, you can start working with somebody and then you can expand because like you are not going to be an employee in this company, but you can always continue. There are always new things are building or new projects are starting, and for sure for the company it's easier to continue working with the person they know than to hire another new person.
Another question, this one is related to, I guess, small companies that want to become part of an agency. So the question is, can one of these agencies accept teams onto their platform? So not as individual freelancers, but rather than have like a group of 3, 4, 5 people who are working together, and they're probably looking for like a larger project. Would you guys work with them, or would you still onboard them individually?
We are usually not. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You were the first one, so go ahead.
Juan muted. Yeah, like push the button. So usually we're not working with teams. Sometimes we can create teams out of our freelancers. So we know there is front end, there is backend developers, there is product owners. Sometimes we can connect them together to work on a project. But usually teams are agencies. And we really care about freelancers. We know that we are an intermediary. We are getting a fee. Like we want the freelancer to receive the full amount we are paying them, not to give some more fee to somebody else. So basically, we are working mainly with freelancers only.
Yeah, the same with us. I mean, at the beginning, we actually worked with some agency. The experience wasn't the best because, of course, you also don't know what's happening behind and who is working on what, and it could get a little bit messy. Now we also have like some partner agency with whom we collaborate, but either way, everyone needs to go through our vetting process. Everyone needs to be onboarded on a project. And of course, if there is an opportunity, like Yuri mentioned, of course, we would put the team that is working from the same location and know each other on the project. Yeah, we are totally up for it, but we cannot guarantee that. And it's like not even, I don't think 50% chance this will happen if it's a bigger team or something like that.
One interesting question is how often clients have strict requirements with freelancers based location. For example, India versus Europe versus USA. From my experience, not so much unless they have a very specific requirement in terms of the project. Like usually there are, maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, usually clients have a requirement that you need to be based in a city where the company is due to the fact that they want to have constant meetings and stuff like that. But apart from that, I think they're pretty flexible.
Yeah, at least from our side, I don't think that's an issue. Like I said, we have clients from US, so some of them request some overlap. We always try to negotiate that it's still in our normal hours. So at least to have like maybe dailies, I don't know, 5 p.m., 6 p.m. our time, but not later if possible. Rarely it's later actually. The only client that want to have some on-site meetings every now and then is one from Graz, from Austria, that is quite close to us. So they have like a on-site onboarding since it's more corporate client and they have their own computers and everything else. And this is of course also communicated up front. So the freelancer person who will be working here can decide if this works for them or not.
For code control, it's also, we're working only with people from Europe. Like it doesn't matter in what city, but from Europe, because it's of our legal stuff and we have legal entities only in Europe. And sometimes, since we are based in Germany, like our, let's say, main office in Germany, sometimes clients ask to have people based in Germany. Sometimes they have this requirements, but usually it's all remote. And since it's Europe, we all have basically the same working hours. But from my experience as a community builder, there are some US companies which just cannot accept freelancers outside of the US because of restrictions, of legal restrictions. And usually they can even write remote opportunity, but somewhere in brackets like only US and Canada or only the US. So you should see if they have anything written there.
Yeah, in most of the cases, it's more about some specific laws or some tax reasons rather than the actual fact that the client wants you to be there. I think this also changed a lot after COVID, where most of the companies, even like those hardcore corporate ones, became a lot more flexible in terms of remote work. We're already an hour past of our talk, which has been very interesting. Ismar has one question, which is I think going to be a nice maybe conclusion of our talk. In your opinion, what is the future of freelancing? I think you hope to be a very bright future. Otherwise, both of the companies would be out of business, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, let's say, there is future for sure. I mean, especially after COVID, people started to be aware more of the remote work, work from home, and so on and so forth, and more freelancers appears. People are more, let's say, they feel more safe to go into freelancing than they did before. So I think there's a lot of there will be a lot of opportunities, especially in this global economy. Still, I don't think old jobs would just disappear. Some of them depends on which stage in your life you are actually. So some of them just want security. You know, they don't care if it's the rate is 5-10% higher or lower. They just want security. They want to be on a project where they know what they will be doing for the next, I don't know, year, because they don't want to think about these kind of things when they get home. They want to relax, be with family, whatever reason. So freelancing, sure, has a bright future, but I doubt that only freelancers will survive this.
Yeah, I would say that future is kind of combined, because there are always, I would say freelancers are, as I told, they are entrepreneurs, and not everyone have guts to be an entrepreneur, because when you have a project, everything's okay. If you're not having the project, life sucks, you know? So it's always like up and downs, and you have to be very skilled in finding clients and building your pipeline that way, that one project finish, you have like some period to rest, and then you start a new project. Like it's a top level of freelancing. And basically, yeah, if we're talking about remote work, for sure, like most of people, like if you're a doctor, even doctors sometimes can work remote. But in general, yeah, remote work is getting up. But if we're talking about freelancing, I don't know. It's rising, but I can't say that the normal job will disappear, just as Goran said. And I saw this case when people are working in companies, but companies do not have projects at the moment, and they're starting freelancing. They get paid in company, but they have free time, so they're working on something else. So maybe some kind of hybrid stuff will show up, but it's nothing new. It's already was before.
Great. Thank you both so much for this very interesting talk. I hope that the audience learned something new. I guess I can recommend maybe to apply to one of these platforms if you're looking into going to freelancing. Yuri and Goran, I won't take much of your time anymore. Yuri, sorry for not showing your presentation to the audience.
I will definitely share it one day, you know, like I spent, I don't know, 3 hours.
Yeah, that's a significant amount of time. Maybe we can.
So it will be definitely one more webinar, because there are a lot of things.
Yeah. So now you can host another webinar and we'll all join just to see it again. For any further questions you might have, you can write us to our social media or email. We'll be happy to forward these questions to Goran and Yuri. And I hope to see you on some other webinar or an event in person. And yeah, guys, thank you so much, and have a lovely rest of the week.
Thank you for having us, guys. Have a nice day, man.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.